Now, let's just talk about actions in general. If I wanted to come up with my own action, okay, I'm going to open up this photo here called flowers, and I'm just going to create an action from scratch. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do, but I'm going to make a new set. And a set is just a folder that contains actions. And then I click the new action button. And I'll name this later. And I'm just going to run some filters here. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, punch that up. Then I'm going to choose edit, fade filter, which lets me change its blending mode and adjust the opacity. And then I'm going to do filter, film grain. I'm just adding some grain to that image. That's pretty good. Then I'm going to fade that a little bit so it's not quite so intense. That's good. And then I'm going to add another layer. Let's add a gradient layer. And I'm going to load it here as black to white. And I'm going to change that to a radial. Reverse it. There we go. Scale that up. And put that to multiply mode. And lower the opacity. There we go. Stop. Now, I changed the opacity twice so I could get rid of that first one, which was wrong. And I can call this film look vignette. Okay? I created a look that I want to apply to other images. Maybe I'm going to put this in. If I decide, you know, I like this, but I want to add on to this here. Let's go ahead and record a little bit more, and let's go ahead and add the gradient map adjustment, and let's go ahead and add the black to white gradient map, and let's go ahead and change that to a soft light mode at 70% opacity. Good. Stop. See, I modified the action. I could go back and click here and add something in between or drag it up so it happens earlier. The important thing is that this isn't saved until I actually save it. It's only temporarily stored in a temporary file. So if you reset Photoshop, or if you had a loss like to your preferences, it'd be gone. So you may want to click on that set and come up here and click the flyout menu and say Save Actions. And then save that as a set, so then it's there. And then if you add more actions to that set, you would just resave it on top of itself with the same name, and that way you could store your custom actions. So the benefit here is that besides coming up with my own looks, I could do things like select all these images and just say Tools, Photoshop, Batch. Say, oh, I want to go ahead and use that action I just made and go ahead and put these all into a new folder called Flowers Processed. Create, put them there, and go ahead and, that's good, put them in the folder. Don't stop if there's any errors. Instead, log those errors to a file called error log. That way, if it encounters a problem, it won't stop in the middle of 500 images and you come back and nothing's happened, like because there's one bad image. So you can log all the errors to a file. I could say, don't bother to give me any warnings like that this is something else, and don't give me any warnings about color profiles as it opens. And I can click Go and take a drink of my soda. Now, see, it's asking me to name these here because I'm going from a non-layered file format to a layered format. So let me hit cancel. Okay? And let's close this. And that brings up one of our interesting problems with actions. If you're running an action on a JPEG or a PNG, those don't support layers. So if you're going to something that involves a layered image, you need to convert these to a layered file type, which is easy. You could select all of your images and choose File, Scripts, or go to the Photoshop tool menu here and choose Image Processor. which allows you to say, take these images and go ahead and put them into a new folder. And while you're at it, go ahead and save them as TIFF files, but also resize them to fit. So I can give them a target size, not to exceed 1500 pixels either way. Oh, and go ahead and run an action at the same time and add my copyright info. So if you've got a bunch of images that are all JPEGs, you can quickly convert them to TIFFs or PSDs, and that's good because you don't want to work with JPEG files anyways, because every time you open and close a JPEG, it recompresses the file, losing quality. So if you're shooting JPEG for some reason, instead of shooting camera raw, which you should be doing if you're doing digital photography, get out of JPEGs as quickly as possible. JPEGs are a terrible format for image manipulation. They are a great format for web distribution, but they're terrible for editing and working with in Photoshop. So what I'm doing here is like a batch process, but it's even better. And I can click Go. And now it's converting all of those images. Look how fast it's going. It's doing one at a time, and it's just flying through the actions faster than you could ever do, because it doesn't even have to wait for the screen to update. It could just plow through and do all of these. And it's processing these images. It's not doing anything to the original folder. It's changing the file type. It's sizing them. It's running an action. It's adding my copyright info, all with one command. The image processor is in CS2 and CS3, and if you don't have CS2 or CS3, you can go to Adobe's website into the sharing area and look for a set of things called Dr. Brown's scripts. It was made by Russell Brown. But see, it's done. If I go out to the desktop here and take a look, let's see here, flowers processed, there they all are. So it did that look, it did the size, it did the copyright all at once. Okay? See how this could be faster? If I find myself having to do something more than 5 times, I make an action for it. Where people have problems with actions is that actions are very literal. So if you click on a layer, it memorizes the name of that layer, which could be a problem. See, like if I have this open, and I say, oh, I want to make a new step here, and I click on the background layer, see it says select layer background. So that might not work for you because maybe you don't want that. So instead, you have to do things like use keyboard shortcuts, like Option left and right arrow to select up and down in your layer stack, or use the layer menu here and pick things, or do things like click here and say that you want to go ahead and insert a menu item, okay? Insert a menu item. So you have to be careful. And there's a good article at adobeevangelists.com that gives you some extra tips on recording your own actions from scratch and points out a few of the gotchas. Basically, the biggest problem with making your own actions is you want to try really hard not to click on things in the layers palette because it's going to memorize the name of the layer when you click. And instead, try to use that Option or Alt left and right bracket to move things up or down if you need to select layers in the layers palette.